Hello, everyone. This is Rajsri Rengan, Senior Vice President, FIS, and today I have with me Candice, one of a brilliant fintech entrepreneur, and I can't be more proud to talk to her as part of our innovation interview series. Hi, Candice. How are you this morning?
Hi, how are you? Very happy to be here with you as well.
Yes, absolutely. And it is late evening for me, but I think looking at your profile, staying late is absolutely worthwhile. And I cannot wait to have our conversation going. So Candice, I mean, the first topic for today is going to be on Metaverse. So we all know the buzzword Metaverse today. I mean, you are in fintech, I'm in fintech. We keep hearing Metaverse all the time. What are your thoughts on the Metaverse? And what do you think is going to be the new world looking in the Metaverse and the innovations you see in the Metaverse in the near future?
That's a very good question. And that's a question that I get a lot at my innovation agency called Alfredo's. We work with large companies trying to make sense of everything that is happening digitally. The world is changing so fast, and Metaverse is one of those new words that everyone is hearing about, but no one really knows what's next and how to be part of the Metaverse. And I like to compare what is happening with the Metaverse as part of life in general, as a person and as companies. The difference and the separation between digital and online and offline, it really doesn't exist anymore. So the Metaverse is not something that it's coming, and that's something really important for leaders to think of, especially so that you stop being scared of this word. Metaverse is not something that it's coming to change or to create a new rule. Metaverse will be an evolution of what already is happening in our daily life. We don't have any more distinction between what is happening in our day-to-day life and work and what is happening online. And each time, the difference between both of these worlds will be less. And that's what the Metaverse is all about. One of the points that people have been saying recently, especially with the ex-girlfriend of Elon Musk saying that Mark Zuckerberg is not qualified to be the CEO of Metaverse. Metaverse is not a company. Metaverse is an evolution. It is as if we were saying, who is the CEO of the internet? So yeah. Metaverse is a space where everyone, and not just large companies, but every individual will be creating their worlds online and will be migrating what they do offline to a space where it just feels more real. So we all are living a little bit in the beginning of this evolution, because the separation between online and offline doesn't exist anymore. So my number one advice that I gave to CEOs that comes to speak with me and ask me at my innovation agency, Alfredo's, what about the Metaverse? Should I be concerned? Is the number one, you know more about the Metaverse than you know. Now let's walk through what is the best steps for your company.
That's brilliantly put, Candice. I mean, I guess even a layman can easily understand that, and need not be intimidated by the word Metaverse.
Exactly.
Right? As though it is something, that is completely alien. I guess, it is going to be very seamless, the way we live our lives in the physical world. I mean, life in the Metaverse also is going to be very seamless in the near future. So this brings to the next question. How do you see the digital assets being impacted in the Metaverse?
So that's another really good point, because up to now, you only had a certain way of having transactions in the digital world, which would be with digital assets and with NFTs. And this is evolving. And this is really important for two reasons. Number one, the safety of crypto is something that is yet being worked on. We all know that one of the biggest troubles and issues and dangers of building your crypto wallets is, you really need to be sure you are in a safe environment because of the possibility of having your money hacked. But another point is that it's not yet for everyone. Now, we think of the metaverse as something for everyone to be part of, something that the companies are implementing, that the universities, that people in general, anyone that has loved ones living abroad knows how just video calls have made everything much more human and closer and possible. Now, imagining the metaverse, how distances will be really diminished. For us to really include everyone, we need to have more types of financial transactions happening in the metaverse, and not only digital assets that maybe is not as inclusive. And this is something being worked on to include more currencies and to include the type of money and transactions that the people in general already are part of. And that will probably be one big step to bring the metaverse closer to a bigger part of the population. Another way to bring it closer, which is part of the reason the question of digital assets is so important, is how to make it more accessible to everyone. So another way to make it more accessible would be to bring the metaverse each time more off just the virtual reality devices and into any type of devices. And that will be part of the whole evolution of this new environment that we're all going to be part of. If we just think about, as I like to make the connection between metaverse and the internet, because it's both are innovations and creations that are taking over. One has already done it and the other promises to do the same, our day-to-day lives. And if you just think about the evolution of the internet from the beginning until now, even for anyone that will think about when you were a child versus now, how does it impact your life? So we're right in the beginning of the metaverse, and we're the generation that will be creating it and transforming it and making sure that more types of transactions can happen and they're not limited only to digital assets is extremely important, not only for the evolution of this in a transparent and safe way, but also for the inclusion of a bigger part of the population.
Very well said. Last question on metaverse. Do you see large organizations driving the metaverse forward in the future?
So that's a very good point. I was in Dubai a few months ago, invited by Cartier as part of their Cartier entrepreneurship initiative, and there was a talk with Sheryl Sandberg that used to be from Facebook, now Meta. And she was speaking exactly about that. And she was saying how the metaverse will not be driven by large companies, but instead will be driven by people all over the world. And that's exactly what I believe as well. The metaverse will be built, transformed, and evolved by creative, intelligent, and absurdly smart people all over the world. It's much harder for a large company to innovate and see through than it is for individuals who are thinking outside of the box on a daily basis, because that's just part of how they get their bread and butter. And it's faster as well to try and make mistakes and to innovate small and start evolving in a larger scale. I do think it's important that large companies create mini labs, not because they could be the ones driving the metaverse, but because they do not want to be the ones that when the metaverse is something so popular, they are completely foreign to that. They need to be able to have a small lab inside of their company that is bringing the information, that is creating the innovation, and that is keeping the C-level informed and helping them plug into the different parts of their companies in a way that makes sense for their bottom line. So in my opinion, I agree with Sheryl Sandberg that the metaverse will be driven, created, and the impact will come from people all over the world. Everyone will create the metaverse, just like everyone creates the internet. And big companies need to open their eyes and start putting innovation as one line on their budget that it's something that it's always being spoken of, invested, and delivered for their different teams, so that when something as the metaverse becomes so big as the overnight success that took 10 years, they do not wake up in the middle of it and say, how did we miss it?
So Candice, I think this is my favorite question. Did you always want to become a leader and an entrepreneur? What made you take that decision?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think that leadership skills, they can be developed. And I do think that some people are just born like that. So I am one of those people that was just born like that. I was just born a leader. I was a child leader. I was always innovating even in my own life in how I was building my own education side by side with the opportunities that my family was giving me. And being an entrepreneur was not a word that I grew up with. My father was a business owner in Brazil. Now he is retired. And I always had seen the role of the CEO, but I didn't see and didn't learn about what it is to be an entrepreneur right in the beginning, especially also because nowadays the word entrepreneur is so connected to the digital world. So being an entrepreneur, it's something that evolved. I always knew that I wanted to have my own company. I was always a leader in the companies that I worked for. So I was always an entrepreneur, as it's called. So, I think that a lot of people that decide one day to become an entrepreneur have those leadership skills since always. And they also act as one in the companies they work for. And that's why they grow so fast inside of those companies. And when they suddenly have a moment of a few months to think about what will I do next, if already inside of them, there is a challenge that they want to solve in the world, making that decision is very fast. So that's how it happened to me. I always had leadership skills. I always was very forward thinking. I worked for large American companies, and I grew very fast inside of them because I had my entrepreneurial attitude, always to build things where the owners had. And then suddenly when I said I need to take some time to think about my next step, what do I want to do? I just decided that I wanted to solve a problem. And the problem that I wanted to solve at that time was the problem of access to funds in Latin America. And that's how I launched Kikante, which is a great success story for Brazil. And after that, because I live in New York City, after that, I saw that I had a lot of skills that I could offer to large American companies that wanted to innovate and to grow, because this has always been my market and I live in New York City. And that's how then I created my second company, Alfredo's Prosperitas, which is an agency focused on digital marketing and innovation for large companies. And it has been another great success story. So I'm very happy about that. And we have just been nominated as one of the top digital innovation agencies of the US. So I think that when you are an entrepreneur, you're always looking to explore your skills and apply it for change. And that's what leadership is.
That was very inspirational. As an innovator yourself, Candice, what is something that you would like to see more being done at large corporations?
When I work with very large companies to bring innovation to them with my agency Alfredo's, one of the key points that I see, it's sometimes there is a disconnect between what the main leadership wants to see and the mid-level leadership. So a lot of the work that we do is to bring everyone together to understand that this innovation should not be scary for you. It will not take away your job because you don't know digital enough. As part of the process, we would teach you how to handle this innovation, and we will help you see that because of that, you will actually earn more in the very near future. One thing that I feel it's really important for large companies is to understand that you cannot rush, postpone innovation. You have to be committed to it. You have to be committed to it as part of it. My most successful clients, they have a line on their revenue, a line on their budget that is committed to innovation, that is committed to testing, committed to bringing new ideas and testing them. Because with innovation, you bring in new ideas according to the mission and the goals of the company. You accelerate the ones that work and make sense, and you delete the ones that doesn't, and you keep on repeating. It's a machine. And that machine should be working in every large company nonstop. So the companies that we work with like to work with us because we bring those fresh eyes. It's very normal, expected, and necessary that large companies, very often, what is urgent would take the space of what is important. So innovation is never happening. So when they bring in my team, we plug in into their team to look at what's important while they're handling what is urgent. Otherwise, their business is stopped. What is urgent will handle the short and midterm results, but what is important will handle your long-term results. So that's how we plug in and bring innovation and forward thinking that impacts the results in the long term and keeps that machine of revenues working for the company.
Wonderful. Very, very candid response that I can completely relate to. As a successful female entrepreneur, what were some of the challenges that you faced to get to where you are today?
So that's a very interesting question, and I get that a lot. And one of the key things that I say to women entrepreneurs is that it is really as hard, and this is really important, it's really as hard to be an entrepreneur for a man as it is for a woman. It is really as difficult for everyone. As women, we have extra challenges.
Yeah.
It's harder to get funds. You have to be 20 times better to be seen at the same level as your male colleague. But guess what? Now you're at the same level, being 20 times better. So if you focus on what you have to do, guess who is going to take over the market? So I always teach and help other women entrepreneurs to see that, yes, it is much harder. Some doors will be closed. Focus on the ones that will be open. Focus on the fact that women are better innovators. Focus on the fact that women have more empathy, that women are better leaders, and also women are better at negotiating fees because people already think that you should be paying less. And women normally are excellent salespeople. So focus on what you have as extra and the plus. When I was at university, I used to do an internship at the World Trade Centers Association, and Guy Tozzoli, who founded the Twin Towers and founded the WTCA, he was my mentor during my university years. And he told me one day, because I was an intern and they were very impressed with the fact that I was actually doing a project at that time for their online university. And I made a project that was exactly revisiting what they were doing. And this was 30 years ago. Almost 30 years ago. That was revisiting how they were doing their online university to actually merge online with offline, which is a little bit of what is the metaverse today. So it was a project that I did really young, and their Chinese board was very impressed. And then Guy Tozzoli said, you know what, every end of the day, you can come to my office and I'll mentor you for as long as you are our intern. And that was really important for me because I never forgot that he looked at me and he said, you are a born leader. I know you will be successful. And I want you to remember when you become successful that as a woman leader, people will expect certain things from you, and especially will expect that you act like a man. But the best women leaders that I have seen in my life have acted exactly like a woman, because as a woman, you have skills that women just don't have. So guess what? You women have everything we have and extra. So never forget that extra. It's going to be a huge advantage in the new world. And this he said to me about 30 years ago. Guy Tozzoli was an amazing innovator who was nominated for Nobel, you know, it was wonderful to have that mentorship from him during my internship every day at 5 o'clock in his office. And this was one of the things that he said that really marked me, because, and I repeated to many women, we don't need to be as a male leader. We are a women leader. And if we both bring both of our skills together, that would be fantastic to see what we all can achieve. We have seen more women in leadership positions all over the world. But it's not clear if we have seen more women leadership skills in the world, not only limited to women, the same way that we women can learn from skills that are considered more male skills. The same can happen to a man leader. They can learn from ours, which are more considered women skills. It should be more fluid, because in the end of the day, we're all just leaders. And the more space we're giving to women leadership, to women entrepreneurs, the more examples are being displayed at the media, in webinars, inside of companies with promotion. And the more often that companies understand that what women need, it's not only coach, but money. More money for their salaries, more money for their projects, for their startups. We're going to see more of that change happening, which I am sure it's only going to benefit the world as a whole.
Innovation and disruption are the buzzwords in fintech today. What do they mean to you, or how would you define them?
So innovation means, for me, looking at the same problem with new eyes. So reimagining what you're seeing. And sometimes it is bringing up a solution that doesn't actually look completely different than what you did before, but operationally, it's a complete new setup. So let's say, for example, I was last month at the Clinton Global Initiative event here in New York City, and they were speaking about reimagining some of the world issues and how to resolve them. And they brought in innovation to some problems that are normally resolved by governments. And one of them, just to give an example, they wanted to host a certain amount of refugees. And the amount was immensely higher than what happened the year before, because what happened the year before was what the government budget could account for. So they reimagined that problem and how to resolve it, and thought, why do we need to put them in housings and host them in places specifically designed by the governments? What if people could host them in their own houses? So let's say it's the Airbnb of the refugee solution. So innovation sometimes will bring the same result, but in a way that it's completely rethought and will bring about disruption and a more accelerated growth. Disruption on its own, as its own word will be something that brings innovation to a market that was not expecting it. So when we're talking about disruption, that's a word that gets many large companies scared of, because they're always saying, someone, young with funds will come and they will disrupt my market, and I will lose a big market share that could actually impact the entire company because their fixed costs are so high. And disruption is basically breaking your own status quo. If you're a big company and you want to be disruptive, or if you want to make sure a smaller startup will not come and affect a percentage of your revenues, which could really represent a disaster for a large company because of their big, high fixed costs, be brave enough to destroy part of the market as a test and see how that evolves for you and for your bottom line. Because if you're not doing that and not thinking of that, chances are someone else is. And another way that disruption and innovation join together is that most of the times, not always, there are many innovations that are not disruptive. There are many innovations, they're just operational innovations, or they are market innovation. or they could be communication and marketing innovation as well. But there are some innovations that are disruptive, and they break the status quo, and with that, they generate more revenues for a company.
Absolutely. Let's move to the last question in this section. Innovation and disruption seem synonymous with startups and newer companies today. What would be your advice for larger corporations to be disruptors and innovators in fintech?
Yeah, so the number one would be hire my agency, Alfredo's Prosperitas, because that's exactly what we do. We make it easier. We plug in into your team, and we, respect how fast or how much innovation the company can handle, which is something important. The second one, which I always tell my clients, and they're all large American companies, is you have within your team the knowledge to be innovative and disruptive. You have the industry, you have the market, you have professionals working there which know so much. But sometimes it's very difficult to let go of what is urgent and focus on what is important. Sometimes it's also very difficult to let the people that are already doing that work know and realize that innovation will not take their job away. On the opposite, disruption will actually help them grow. Part of what we do when we plug in to our clients' teams is to bring in fresh ideas with new eyes and introduce it to the team members and engage them in that innovation and disruption that is so necessary for large American companies. The main point that I always make is do not ignore innovation, because it does not respect any role. It does not respect any company size, and innovation wants what it wants. And when innovation is ready to disrupt the market, it will find the people to do that. And it's better that you are the company and that you are the people that are actually leading that if you want to keep your bottom line. Making partnerships, there are many ways of doing that. You can build it yourself. You can make partnerships with smaller startups. You can create labs inside of your company so that you're always bringing in new ideas. We have built labs which are just part of a section inside of a company, and it's always bringing new ideas based on data, and bringing ideas for the different departments of that company. And then the chief levels will analyze, does it go with our mission, where we want to go, and our budget. As much as you can as well, create competitions, for example, which are the venture builders, and see the brilliant startup minds that would bring about disruptive innovations for you to invest on and have an ownership share on that. So there are so many ways to not be scared of innovation and disruption, and to bring it and make it part of what you're actually doing, and avoiding looking down 5, 6, 10 years later and saying, what did we miss? And the only thing you missed was thinking that you had time. You have to start investing and looking at innovation now and not later, because innovation is already happening. So that's my main advice.
That was brilliant. Let's move to my favorite topic, inclusion and diversity, which is very, very important.
Yes.
How can we build a more inclusive fintech ecosystem in the world?
Diversity hires diversity. One of the main reasons why sometimes companies do not have a diverse and inclusive client base, and I start with client base because that's what matters a lot to chief level. So the world is diverse, and each time it's becoming more open to companies that are inclusive. And if you're wondering, how can I grow even more my market share? The answer is inclusion and diversity. But guess what? If everyone you have inside of your company looks the same, it's going to be very difficult for you to conquer a market that it's not exactly what you have right now. And how do I get more diverse people working at my company? You have to start by hiring at least one person that is inclusive, and that brings diversion, because the bias will not be there when it's time to hire other people inside of your company. The same way that we were speaking before, that when we're talking about a woman to get at the same level as an entrepreneur as a man, they have to be at least 20 times better.
Yeah.
When you hire a diverse employee, contractor, you should know that for that person to get where they probably are multiple times more prepared than you would imagine, because it's not easy. It's not easy if you come from a different country. It's not easy if you didn't go to the same, you didn't have parents to fund your studies, then you were studying, you were working, and you had kids and you have to take care. Just the mental exercise to become who you became as a diverse hire oftentimes demanded and prepared leadership skills that can't be taught. So if you want to have a more inclusive, bigger market share, hire more diverse employees or agencies or companies. And if you feel that you have been trying, but I have heard this in the past. We've tried to bring in a more diverse group of people to work in the company, but there were not good enough people applying. Guess what? Maybe your bias was on the way. Maybe they were good enough or even better than enough. So if you start with just one hire, just give it a chance. You start with one hire and see your company flourish with different types of thoughts, ideas, and backgrounds that will really enrich innovation, disruption, and especially market share.
As a successful entrepreneur, Candice, how do you make your business more inclusive?
So I have a very diverse background myself. I am Brazilian, Italian, who lived most of my life in the US. So it's very natural for me to have team members who are of different colors, of different background, men and women, young and old. I was lucky as well that in my very early days, when I was 23 years old, I was head of international expansion for a large world music label in the US. And that label, because it was related to world culture, had a very diverse group of people. And the main saying of that CEO was that every big decision that he made, he got in a meeting room and everyone from the company was invited to join. If you're intern, there were people from all over the world, different backgrounds, different ages. If you worked in the company doing anything, many times the doorman was invited. And his main point was, if everyone that is in this room will vote in an idea that I just had, that idea has to be really special. So I was really young seeing that, and I think that formed a lot of what I thought, of what I developed in my thinking and what I think up to today. And if you want to be inclusive, and if you want to bring innovative disruption, you have to be able to listen even to people that you think know less than you, because in the end of the day, you're serving people that are just like them. You're not serving people that are like you. There are not so many CEOs in the world, but there is a lot of the other type of people that are part of your company. And that's a good way of just questioning yourself and being brave enough to understand that maybe that idea that I have came from where I'm sitting and was formed by the lifestyle that I have and the background that I grew up with. And the best way for me to have different thoughts, different mindsets, and forward-thinking innovation is by just listening to different people inside of the company and implementing a diverse group of people. And if you're too scared of innovation, you start with interns and promote the best ones. If you're too scared of diversity, start with interns and promote the best ones.
That's a great tip. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges faced by the next generation women entrepreneurs in fintech today?
One of the biggest challenges will always be funds. Women entrepreneur, even though so many VCs have already said that their startups led by women bring better results, women entrepreneurs still receive the least amount of funds. There are many funds that promise that, we're inclusive and women, but when you look at who they're investing on, they don't really have that commitment. And perhaps that's also because of the bias, because most of the decision makers of the funds are men. So this will be the biggest challenge. But what I always say to women entrepreneurs is then focus on your revenues, focus on being very optimistic about what you can do, but pessimistic about how much money you have to spend. And build it slowly on your own, and you're going to have an even stronger startup to show that it's not based only on funds received and growth funneled by investments, but it will be a solid company. And I know that we all love the word unicorns, but most of the startups will not be unicorns and still could be making tens or hundreds of millions. So focus on what you're building. Be very diligent about your costs, because you do not know if you will get funds in the future, even if you're having good growth. And especially for the funds for big companies, remember, the funds that actually invest in women have reported that companies led by women bring better results. So give it a chance.
Why do you think it is important for women to support women and beyond?
I think it's important for women to support women. I think it's important for men to support women. I think it's important for women to support men, and it's important for men to support men. I think that what we see today in the world is that we're each time more connected. And one of the concerns that I have with the rhetoric that women supporting women is that most people in power today are men. We need more men supporting women so that we can actually go higher. And then we need the women that are getting higher, bringing the other women up. So we cannot take the men out of that equation when we're constantly talking about the rings of support for women. It's really important that, I was once in a talk in which the president of the brand Cartier was talking exactly about that. And he's very committed to women advancement and supporting women. And he had that phrase in which he said, we men are repeating constantly lately that we have all gotten where we got because there were mothers, wives, sisters, or other women supporting our career, be it inside of a company or at home. It's really about time we stop talking and we start bringing these women up, because now we owe it to them. So I think that when we're talking about women supporting women, we cannot remove from that phrase men supporting women and women that support other women, because as I said, they are the ones that are now really the majority of leaders, and we need just to bring everyone up, and then the conversation among everyone will be much more prosperous and will also bring about more change, innovation, disruption. We have to remember half of the decision makers are still women. We have the example of Spanx, that amazing company, created, American company. And it was the first time a woman was actually creating garments for other women. It was the first time. And she took over the entire market so fast, just because she started creating garments for women that was actually comfortable. So there was one company that all of the other decision makers were men, and suddenly one woman with zero experience, she says it herself in her talks, in her interviews, she had no experience. She just had a desire to create something that was more comfortable. and she started it and she took over the market. So I always say, it's really important to see this when I say men supporting women. It's not a favor. It makes economic sense. That's all.
Absolutely. My personal question to you, Candice, I hope we have 2 more minutes of your time today.
Anytime you need.
You are such a successful entrepreneur in fintech. How do you keep up with the evolving and the fast-moving pace of fintech, and how do you keep yourself updated with the emerging trends in the market?
That's a wonderful question, because it's something that I always teach my team. I study a lot. I'm always reading. I think we can never, as an entrepreneur or as a successful business person, stop reading. I read not only books, but blogs. I am always speaking with other successful decision makers. We're always exchanging ideas. And very important, I'm always looking at data and innovating. My company is innovating every single day, be it in our processes, be it in the offers that we have, be it in our technology. And the companies that I work with and that I help through my agency, Alfredo's Prosperitas, they're also creating the same system, and I call the machine of innovation inside of your company, that you always review and you're never stopping. Small incremental advancements of innovation is better for everyone, for your company, for your team, and for your clients. Just 1% a day or a week, it's better than one day waking up and saying, I have enough money, I'm going to just revamp everything. Guess what? Your team is not ready, your clients are not ready, and you're not ready. Now, if every day you do 1% incremental innovation and better in your systems, your offers, and your marketing, everyone gets on the same boat as you. So that's basically what I do, what I teach my team at my fintech Kikanti, and what I teach and implement to my clients at my agency of innovation, Alfredo's.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for answering that additional question. Actually, I wanted to ask you, how do you manage your time, Candice? I mean, all of us have 24 hours, but I can imagine, someone like you, who's a founder, who's a CEO, right? I mean, who's an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm amazed at, how can you get so much done in the same 24 hours that all of us have. So I mean, maybe I would save that question for the future, right? I would really love to understand your time management tips.
But I can also say it now, but it's I love that question, because a lot of people actually ask me that. People that know me professionally or personally, because I think it's also important to take care of ourselves and all of that. And I think that there are 3 main pillars for that. One, I am very organized about the days of my week, which projects I work on, and the hours of my day, what I do in each one of them. Number 2, while I'm doing one, I understand that the other things that I'm not doing at that moment will wait, and that alleviates a lot of mental process that people are always thinking they're not doing enough, and then they're not productive enough, they're not innovative enough. And number 3, I don't engage in dramas. It's just not part of my personality. And when you don't engage in dramas personally, professionally, and in your own life, you won't believe the amount of time we have in a day to get things done. So I think that that very operational organization of my days and of the hours of my day, the understanding that some things are just urgent but not important, or that important but not urgent. So having a balance between them both, and then just keeping a very clear mind, because we really have a lot of time to do everything we need. Keeping healthy, mentally, physically, and professionally, really helps us get a lot done. So I think that's basically that. But a lot of people ask me that, people that know me professionally or personally, and I think that's the main thing, to just allow ourselves to complete projects.
I absolutely loved your comment on not being a drama person, and how much time that we can actually save by not doing it. So
it's a lot. People don't realize people do not realize how personal or professional unnecessary dramas take so much of our actual time or mental capacity to actually do things that will better things for everyone. So I just don't. And I really think that even though I have my own, you know, way that I operate my days, and I make sure that I exercise every day because it's a lot of energy that I need, and exercise does give us energy for the day. Even though I have these, let's say, operational things, I do believe that being completely drama, I just don't engage. The moment I see a trigger for drama, I'm like, okay, that's not a path I will take. And then you have time to do a lot.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm so proud to see you, you know, coming from Brazil, you know, sitting in New York, trying to make a mark, you know, in the ever-changing world of fintech, digital, and, you know, I'm amazed, you know, how you find time, you know, to understand all the emerging trends and also advise and consult, you know, companies that actually want to be at the forefront of innovation. So you're
Yes.
truly an inspiration. And, you know, I'm so happy, you know, to get an opportunity to talk to you today after multiple attempts. So,
Oh,
you know,
this was wonderful. I really appreciate how kind, professional, and, you know, the questions were very interesting as well. So that was easy.
you were very candid. I must admit that.